Hey, good morning, and welcome to How to Get More Customers. And today I want to share something that happened last week. And I was away at a conference, and it was called Content Economy Expo, and it was in Phoenix last week. And it gathered about 350 of us from literally around the globe, who create content as a way of doing business. And of course, with SwingPoint Media, we create content for our clients as well as what we're doing right now. Obviously, I'm creating content for you, my audience, that would help you. And what I want to do is I just want to share some of the takeaways that I thought were really important. And there were a lot of things, but I kind of narrowed it down to 4 or 5. So that's what we're going to do today is we're just going to talk about, hey, what I learned at the Content Economy Expo last week by Joe Polizzi and Content Marketing Inc. That was a great program last week. So here are my takeaways from industry leaders. The first thing is they talked about community. I think everyone who got up who was a speaker who did, I mean, you name it, it's from TikTok to YouTube to Instagram to Stitch, it didn't matter. Whatever it was, they all talked about how important it was to build a community and to think long term beyond, hey, this is just a transactional relationship. And if you're not familiar with that term transactional relationship, it's saying, hey, I'm only repairing your air conditioner or your car or whatever it may be for the money. There's no long-term relationship here. And so the idea in everything we talked about, or we were talked to about, focused around community. So I want you to think about that. Hey, my business, what can I do to build community with my current customers? Whether that's, hey, you're doing, maybe you collaborate, as an example, with someone in your community that could offer them a discount on some other services that your community would appreciate. Or maybe it's one of those things where you say, hey, every time someone does something with me, you're going to give them something of value because you're actually thinking about them long term, not just the one time. The other thing I think that's important about community is it's the follow-up. It's like what we're doing here is we are doing this every week. We try this every week, even when we're traveling, and to be here for you, to provide you with information. Now, I know some of you are probably watching this live, some of you are watching it afterwards, but the point is we're here for you, and that's how you grow a community. It would be just like saying, hey, I'm going to do a meetup, and I'm going to be at a local coffee shop, and then 20 people show up, and I don't show up. Well, the next time I asked for them to come, unless it was some kind of a major catastrophic issue that happened in my life that caused me not to go, chances are my community, I was lost that trust. So whenever you start doing these type of things, think about, hey, I'm putting myself out there as my business, whether you're a solopreneur, you're a brick and mortar, that you're building trust with your community. So it's really, really important. So the first one is community. The second one is shared value. And this is, how can your current customer participate in your success or growth? And even though some of this they talked about in the vein of Web 3.0, and if you're not familiar with that, don't feel bad. There's still a lot of people that are not familiar with that. Web 3.0 is utilizing like NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens. Sometimes we think, oh, that's just a JPEG. It's beyond that. Or a never-ending ticket, like it's called an NET. Like the event I went to, it was about $1,000 to go, but if you spent $2,000, you could get what they called a never-ending ticket, which means now I could go year after year after year because it would never expire. And even here in our local economy, with I think with Stagecoach and Coachella, I think they were offering some never-ending tickets or NETs. This is a unique thing, and you don't want to sell a lot of these because it's not for everyone. It's for an elite group. It's for that really tight community of people who say, hey, I really am with you, and this is a way for me to support you, and I'm going to keep coming back every year. Now, here's the coolest thing about this. When you do this value piece, this is how you can use this. Is let's say you had a never-ending ticket. And let's say you're an HVAC company, and every year, twice a year, you come out and you do a seasonal checkup. Well, maybe you have a never-ending ticket that says, hey, the life of typically of something like that is, let's say your air conditioner, let's say you're going to keep it 10 to 12 years, and you're spending, let's just keep it easy, let's say you have it 15 years, and it's $200 a year to have that service done. Well, do the math and say, okay, what would that be if that person did that every year? Well, what if you sold a never-ending ticket and you said, I'm going to sell, just say 50 of these, and we're selling them for $2,000. Well, you can see there's a value for those people because they're saying, hey, I'm going to have it done every year anyway. But now they have that valuable ticket. But here's the coolest thing about this. If those people who have these never-ending tickets, and again, this is just an example, if they moved or they something changed, they didn't want it anymore, that would still have a value that they could resell to someone else. Because let's say, for instance, let's say that's 7 or 8 years down the road, and now your same service is $350 a month, and now they can sell it and sell it for $2,500. Well, that may be one of those things where people say, wow, that's a value. Or even if they sold it for $2,000, the same price maybe they bought it at. That means all their services they got for free, and it did not negatively affect you at all, but it kept your community intact. It also allowed your clients, your customers, to participate in your growth. And again, you can do this whether it's maybe you give them a rewards for referral, things of that nature. So think about that. Shared value. The next one is, and I really want to drive this home, and this isn't just because I was at a content marketing thing, but content is still king. Literally after hundreds of years, people depend on it to help them make a decision. The number of people whenever it's, hey, where are we going to go have something to eat? Or should I buy this product? Or what's the best way to get from here to Las Vegas? We do a search, whether it's on map or it's literally just search in Google. If you don't have content that you have created, then the chances of you showing up are less and less and less. Now, somebody may say, well, yeah, but I have a website. That's great. Think of a website as one of those books you go to a bookstore, and it's one of those that says, hey, it's got a really nice cover on the front and back, but inside are nothing but blank pages. It's up to us as business owners and website owners and providers of services or products or both in our area to fill those pages, but not just about me, not just about my services, but what do my services do for my clients? As an example, if you went to Swing Point Media, you would see articles on there of, how an HVAC company, if they do these 5 things, can get more customers. Or if you're a local business, these 3 things you should do to be marketing. That is 100% meant to help the reader. Well, then if I were searching for, hey, what would I do if I'm an HVAC company to get more clients? Well, maybe if I type that in the search engine, my article would show up in the search results. They might click that, and then they come to my website. This is how important this is, because at the end of the day, people depend on this information to make decisions. All right, so we've got community, shared value, and understanding content is still, after hundreds of years, king, and people depend upon it to help make a decision. The next one is do not do this, and I kind of alluded to it in the last piece, is help people solve their problems. In the end, they don't care about the number of years you've been in service or how great you are at what you do. What they really want to know is, can you solve their problem? Because if you can't, they're moving on to the next one. And let's face it, our attention is very short-lived. So if I'm reading an article or I'm watching one of your videos or I'm listening to one of your podcasts and you are demonstrating how your technicians solve problems or your product solves problems that are focused to help me, there's a good chance I'm going to continue and I'm going to find out, oh, yes, I learned more about this particular company. And I may make a decision to move forward. So please don't do this. Don't spend time telling me how great you are. Spend more time, if you're taking those pages in that book and you're putting information in to say, hey, if you had to stop and think, and let's say you have 5 employees, whether they're technicians or they're wait staff, whatever they are, and you got them in a room and say, hey, tell me the most common problems or questions our customers ask you. There's a gentleman who owns a company called River Pool and Spa, and his last name is Sheridan, and he has this belief, and I've adopted. He says, if they ask, we should answer. In other words, if they have a problem, they meaning our customers, if they have a question that they're looking to be solved, we should make a piece of content that answers that questions. Now, some of you might say, oh, well, you know, Jeff, I have these FAQs on my website, these frequently asked questions. A lot of times, if you don't do this right, the search engines will look at that as not enough information, and you will get absolutely no help of being found and ranked. There is a process. It's called building a schema, an FAQ schema, and you can get some benefit for that. But the best way to do that is to then take that FAQ and expand it out into a little bit more in-depth article, or you have an article that has information about that, and then as people read that, they can click over and see your FAQs. All of these are great ideas to say, this is not about me. It's about me solving my client's customer's problem. So again, this was a great takeaway from the week. These are things that, quite honestly, that are things that I see people do on a consistent basis that are errors. You can go to any social media platform and just for fun, look at what businesses are posting and see what percentage of their posts are helpful and giving us content that solve our problems versus telling us how great they are. I've been in service this long. I have this many 5-star reviews. I have this many locations. I've served this many customers. At the end of the day, believe it or not, our clients that spend money with us, that's not the number one reason they make a buying decision. But to find out, hey, what should we do beyond sitting down with our customers or our staff and asking what questions you have, read your reviews. The people who leave you reviews will tell you why they did business with you. I'll give you a pretty example. I'm listening to a program yesterday, and this guy's talking about his reviews, and he said, what I found out, and he's a tree trimmer. He's been doing tree trimming like 30 or 40 years, right? And you would think that the people that would come to him for the tree trimming were interested in the fact he's been doing it for 30 or 40 years, or he knows how to cut trees, or he has dependable service. But you know what his reviews said? The reason I like XYZ Tree Service is they were on time, their people were in and out, and they left the area clean, actually cleaner than when they arrived. Well, you see, these are key points, and this was a consistent theme through most of the reviews. And I want you to think about something. Right now, we've had this whole, economy issue with the economy being shut down with COVID, and now we have shortage of help and blah, blah, blah. Wouldn't it be more interesting if you were reading a review on somebody, or you went to somebody's website and you were going to make a decision, and at the beginning it had, I've been in business 35 years. This is how people, my average employee stays with me 15 years, blah, 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 versus we're on time. We're known for 3 things: on time, complete service, and when we leave, we clean up after we're gone. And most of their customers, that's really what they wanted. Because here's the thing. If you went to a mechanic's website, or in this case, the tree trimmer's website, there's an assumption. The assumption is what? That they trim trees. I don't have to sell you hard on the fact that we know which branch to cut, and we have lifts, and we have saws, and no. What are the things that beyond the typical expectations? And I did this, gosh, now it's probably been almost 2 decades ago when I was in the golf business. And I said to my staff, I said, listen, I want you to go out and shop the competition. I want you to go to other golf courses and find out what they're doing. But I want you to tell me what you see as different. And they came back and they started noticing things that were different. And I said, well, what's important? Because what is important about our golf course? And they say, well, the golf course is in good shape. You know, the greens are fast. And I said, you know, there's a certain thing. Oh, and we could play in 4 hours and we could always get a foursome. And I said, you know, these are things that are expected. When I go to a golf course, I expect those things as just normal. What makes you different? Because we buy in the differences, not the similarities. All right, so read your reviews and find out exactly what they're saying, and then start creating your ads, if you're going to go with ads, or your content around that, or certainly start setting up your website so that it has some of these items in play. So these are the main takeaways that I saw in there. Now, I want to talk about one last thing, and it's organic versus paid. And this is something that is a terminology, maybe you've heard of it, it's called contextual advertising, and it's making a comeback. Now, I'm going to say something, and it's not to pat me on the back, it's just, this makes sense. If you were somebody who owned a street, let's say you owned 10 miles of I-10. Well, let's face it, there's a lot of traffic on I-10, is there not? Of course there is. And if somebody came to you and said, hey, can I put up a billboard because you have a lot of traffic? Would you say yes? Well, of course, but you own that. So guess what? You own that portion of traffic, so you could actually put up your own advertising. Well, this is contextual advertising. This is not advertising on Facebook or YouTube or Google. This is saying, hey, there are people coming to pieces of content to learn more about X, Y, and Z, who are my ideal customers, that I would like to put some advertising on that. Well, this is a higher grade of advertising because the people going down I-10, we don't know what they're doing. But if they're coming to a website that says, hey, how often should I change my filter on my air conditioner? Do you think they have in their mind, I'm going to go to Lowe's or one of the other stores and I'm going to get a filter, but I want to know, how often should I change my filter? Well, sure, these are people that probably A, have an air conditioner, they're thinking about doing this service themselves, and you have an article on there that they came to, the chances are they're much more what we call targeted. So contextual advertising making a comeback, and here's why. Because there was this thing called iOS 14 released, and what that did is it started changing the way we as marketers could track the activity of people on the internet. It was a privacy issue. I'm not against that, but this is something we've been doing for quite some time, and I'll give you a perfect example. One of our clients here in the desert is Lux Electric Golf Car. There's one article that's been on there since February of 2019 when we first started. It's one of the first articles wrote on there. It's getting an average of 2,000, I think it's just under 2,800 views every month. These are organic. These are people that want to know that question, or the answer to that question. They click on it and they go to the website. Well, guess what? This is great targeted traffic. So what do? We create an offer within that article that says, hey, here's a way you can buy a new golf cart, or maybe you thinking about service, if whatever that is, because we have the ability to change that, right? Well, this does a tremendous amount for this particular client, and it will do exactly the same amount for you. This is why contextual advertising is making a comeback. And as I say, you want to use it, you want to use your content your article, your video to actually attract your ideal audience. And I want you to think about this. This is a filtering process. You're filtering out the people that are driving down I-10 that are going to West Covina because you only want people going to Malibu. Well, this article segments those people so that the people that show up and see your ad are most likely the ones who will probably take action, okay, on your offer. And I said, you put offers on your own post, and you now control the actions. In other words, hey, if you say click here, click the banner for more information, or click here to call and talk to one of our representatives, or whatever that is, you can control that. The other thing is there's no algorithm changes. You own your website, and we've talked about this now for years, is don't build your business on rented land. Rented land would be something that you don't own, like Facebook, YouTube, Google. But if you can get traffic, if you can extract traffic from those sources, go for it. But on your website, guess who makes the algorithm decisions? You do, not somebody else. So there's no algorithm changes. So you can play this game for a long time. Remember I said this article's been on this since 2019, February. We started with them in January, I think late January 2019. There's no restrictions on what you can offer. As an example, we have one client that is in the credit service business, another one is a real estate agent, and there are certain things they can and cannot say if it comes to advertising. But if there's an article that leads them to the website and then there's an offer on there, now they're in control of that. And it doesn't mean you're going to do anything, underhanded. It just means now, since you own that platform, you can decide, hey, what is within the boundaries of offering something to those particular people. The other one that I love is this. You can change the offers as often as you'd like. Now let's go back to the air conditioning company. We have several air conditioning companies we work for, and there's a thing called Clean Tech going on right now. It's a $3,000 instant rebate that if someone were changing from, let's say, a gas furnace or a propane furnace, called a heat pump, they could go to a high energy efficient electric heat pump, and they get an instant $3,000, up to a $3,000 instant savings. Well, so they can negotiate their best deal and get $3,000 off. So we have that offer running on all of their offers, or excuse me, all of their articles, all their videos, because that is something that is very, very important. In addition to that, it is now time where people should start having their air conditioning serviced, getting ready for the summer. Because let's face it, we didn't use it a whole lot during the winter, and it just sat there, and we had some wind. We had a lot of wind, a lot of dust storms, so it's an opportunity for them to clean that out, rinse it off, get it ready for the season. Well, that's a great place to put that offer. All right, so you can change that as often as you'd like. You're totally in control of that. Now, here's the bad news. If you're not making content, if you have that book I mentioned, the pages are still blank. In other words, there's no solution-based content in your book, this isn't even an option. It's not an option. You're stuck with that. So I want you to realize that at the heart of this, you need to be making content. So whatever business you're in, it doesn't matter. You could be a check cashing company. There are pieces of, there's articles, there's content that you can create that your ideal customer will choose check cashing location A over you. If you don't have any content, you're not showing up in search. You're not solution, right? So keep that in mind. Now, just as we wrap up here today, I want you to do this. Think content. Put your radar up. Listen. When people are asking questions, pull out your phone, go into your notes section and say, wow, that's a good question. Type it in and save it and just start putting those things in there. What'll happen is you'll start noticing, wow, there are like 20 things I could make content on, because some people, when we first start talking about them, they're thinking, well, there's only about 3 or 4 questions people ask. Not even. There are, I mean, you know, we probably now, for a lot of our customers, we've created over 100 pieces of content. And they didn't think there was 100 questions that your ideal customers would ask. But you and I both know sometimes It's not just the question they ask, but it's how is the question asked. That's what content does for you. And then, like this summer, we're going back for some of these people and we're saying, hey, let's examine all the pieces of content that we've created, and the ones that are not performing at highest level, even though there are questions being asked, we're going to go back in and maybe we're going to rework that content. We maybe change the title of the article so we can get more traffic. Because again, if we can go from, let's say your average website maybe get 50 or 60 views a month, and all of a sudden, just remember I said this one article is getting 2,800 views a month, just one article, and they have hundreds of articles on there. So their website traffic has grown enormously. They are the authority in the marketplace. We've answered a ton of questions that their golf cart buying audience would want solved. You can do exactly the same thing, but think content. If you have any questions about this, my information is here on the screen, Jeff at SwingPoint Media. Please drop me a line. You can check out our swingpointmedia.com. I want you to know something. If you go to my website, and I challenge you to go to the website, we're in the process of redesigning our website to be more customer-centric first. In other words, when they show up, it's going to do exactly what we've talked about today. And it wasn't just because I went to Contact Expo last week. This is something we've been working on. The goal from the very beginning is when people arrive on our website is, do they know what we do? And do they know how we do it? And can they take action? If you can make your website do those three things, you'll be surprised how effective it is. Versus, big pretty pictures and all the big stories and all. Let's face it, when people are searching, what do we want? We want answers. All right, so I hope you found some answers today. Again, my name is Jeff Herron, SwingPoint Media. Thank you so much for joining me. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you